Why is he not here yet? Why didn't he come to pick me up for the game? Hannah was looking out the window, asking the questions over and over again. He should be here in his rusty old car. He always takes me to see hockey games. It had been a while since she heard from him. Who are you talking about, Hannah? My son, of course, Hannah replied. Hannah's father stared at her in shock. She was just a 3-year-old girl. Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today we dive into the mysterious sides of life and death. Have you ever wondered of life after death? What journey has your soul taken through the passage of time? Science has yet to explain the mysteries of the spiritual realm, but there are some people who seem to have taken an inkling of the memories of their souls. Before we dig into the details, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click on that little bell icon so you'll never miss an episode. Meet Dr. Jim Tucker, a child psychiatrist and professor of psychiatry and neurobehavioral sciences at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. Dr. Tucker researched and recounted verifiable memories in his book, Return to Life: Extraordinary Cases of Children Who Remember Past Lives. He followed the strange events of children, and in some rare cases, adults speak of memories they never even encountered, at least not in their current births. So, sit tight as we bring you 3 people who had glimpses of the unknown past lives. Number 3. Olivia. Starting off our mysterious journey is little Olivia from England. She was a healthy little girl and the apple of her mother's eye. One sunny day, when Olivia was just 2 years old, she and her mom went for a walk. After a while of leisurely strolling, her mother casually asked the little girl what time it was. Olivia promptly replied saying 7 o'clock and then added, "In 1787. Her mom was a bit startled but thought nothing more of it. Sometime later, Olivia walked up to her mom and said, "Robinson." Her mom was very confused. "My name," the little girl continued. "I was Daisy Robinson." Olivia's mother could not understand what her daughter was saying. A few months afterwards, Olivia began to talk of strange events. At first, they seemed like childish imaginations, but bit by bit, it became clear that Olivia was not daydreaming. She was describing. She claimed that they were memories, but they were impossible memories for anyone in the 21st century to have, let alone a 2-year-old child. Then, Olivia said something that disturbed her parents very much. She walked up to her mom and said, "All the air came out of here." Her mom asked out of where it came. Olivia pointed to the middle of her small body and said eerily, "Here, and I died. But I don't like talking about it." The girl then turned and left the room. Her mother was shocked. What contact did a 2-year-old child have with death? Things were just getting started. Olivia then came to her mom one day and said, 30 years old. Her mom was really curious now and asked her, "Who is 30 years? "I was," Olivia replied. "I was 30 years old when I died." The little girl went on, "I died because I didn't need anything. I wandered away after that." Her mom suddenly remembered that, as a newborn, Olivia had an insanely high appetite. This could be explained if, in her previous birth, she died of starvation. The strange memories kept on rolling. Olivia said one day that Daisy Robinson's mother's name was Kitty. Her mom knew that Olivia did not know anyone by that name, at least in this birth, and wondered how the daughter got a hold of such things. The years went by and Olivia's mom thought that Olivia had outgrown her little fantasies. That was until she was 4 years old and her dog passed away. After they buried their dog, her mom talked to Olivia to check on her and see if the little girl was doing okay. Strangely, however, the little girl was dreamily wondering if their dog would come back as another dog, just as she had done in her past lives. But then, she said with a smile, he'd have to spend a little time being dead before he becomes a new doggy, maybe a few weeks or months. Her mom listened quietly, then asked her daughter cautiously, "Is that what happened to you, dear?" The little girl said yes. Her mom then asked what it was like to be dead. The dreamy look came over her little face again. "I didn't exist," she whispered. "I just went up into thin air. I went up into the sky and broke up into tiny bits of dust. The dust then floated all over the place." Olivia's mom asked her daughter gently whether she was afraid of dying. She looked at her mom in the eye and said, "Dying isn't scary. When I was dust, there was others as dust, and I made friends with them. I'm not afraid of death, but dying makes me a little sad. I like being on Earth." Olivia then talked about Daisy's life. Olivia could not remember the name of her town, but she remembered that it was in England. She said that she lived in a small town where everyone knew each other, with small shops that sold bread and cheese, and that almost all villages were like that. When her mom asked whether her town had a McDonald's, the little girl laughed and said they weren't invented yet. "We didn't even have cars," she said. "There were horses pulling carriages. The money had the king on it, and the coins were bumpy and flat." Her mom got down to research this piece of information. She found that the coins in the 1780s had an imprint of King George III on them, with serrated bumpy edges, and they were flatter than modern day coins. When she showed Olivia a collection of old English coins dating back to the 1600s, the little girl pointed out a few coins that were exactly from the 1780s. Dr. Tucker, commenting on this phenomenon, said it was still puzzling as to what led such a small child to possess such memories or even think about past life and its events. Number 2. Hannah. Hannah's father was not a hockey fan. His father, on the other hand, that's Hannah's grandpa, was a passionate fan of the game. So much so that her dad's dislike of the game led to a rift in their relationship. When her father met the love of his life, Hannah's mother, he even asked her to never speak of hockey. So, Hannah grew up in a household where hockey was almost a taboo and was never spoken of. Growing up, Hannah never had a babysitter. At the age of 9, her grandpa came to look after her. For her entire life, little Hannah had not seen a game of hockey on TV, or even heard of it. You might be wondering why it matters whether a little girl knows about hockey. It's because of what happened when Hannah was 3 years old. She walked up to her father and asked why her son didn't come to pick her up. Needless to say, Hannah's father was baffled. How could a 3-year-old have a son? Hannah continued, wondering why her son had not come to take her for hockey games like he used to. First a son, and now hockey? Hannah's father could not understand what his daughter was saying. Worried about his little girl, he asked her when her son had come to pick her up. "You know, Daddy, when I was an old lady a couple months ago," the little girl replied. She was clearly annoyed at the fact that her son was no longer visiting. Her father stared in shock while Hannah went on talking about her son. She said, "He was a skinny boy with red curly hair. He always wore a leather coat. He had a car, a white car. It was a rusty old thing." Hannah then went on to explain the hockey arena. This surprised her father even more because, like we mentioned, Hannah had never heard of the game. A few months later, Hannah suddenly stopped talking about her son. Even when her father brought up the topic, she seemed to have no memory of it. According to Dr. Tucker, these apparent memories generally tend to fade away as the children grow older. So there was really no way to find out how Hannah got such memories. Number 1. Susan. Susan was working as a clinical psychologist in the US. From an early age, she regularly had dreams of being an African American girl of about 7 years. She'd dream herself walking down a dusty road. However, Susan was actually a Caucasian growing up in a mountainous area, very much different to the hot and dusty roads she dreamt of. Susan assumes that her dreams are based in the southeast US. She sees herself walking down her road, then glances down at her hands, which look shy. Then, a car, which appears to be from the 1940s, pulls up beside her and she is pulled into the car. She finds 2 men around 20s or 30s, and she sees the lines of the upholstery and the dusty floor. Inside the car, she is assaulted and killed. this dream is as vivid in her mind like all her other childhood memories, and it felt more like a memory than a dream. She repeatedly saw this dream where sometimes she experiences the assault, and sometimes she seems to be seeing it as an outsider. Although she never considered them nightmares, they would startle her awake. Nothing from her childhood could have triggered such memory. She had never experienced any form of racial unrest in her neighborhood. Her black friends did confirm that ashai was a word used to describe their skin, though Susan had no idea how she knew that. Have you heard of any reincarnated experiences? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.